Yeah. She can start recording now.
Yeah.
iPhone.
Yeah, please.
Do that task.
Thanks.
Be the mouse man.
All right, I think we're time. We'll call this meeting to order. First thing to keep me honest, first is to get you appointed as a full member for today.
Thank you.
We have to vote for that, right? We'll just do it.
Yeah, no, we have it,
You don't have to vote on it, you just.
All right. Minutes. Everybody got a chance to look at the minutes? Any changes? Really?
Make a motion to accept the minutes, as written. Yeah.
Okay, second.
Yes. Aye.
Yes.
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 It's accepted. And then invitation for public comment on anything other than
Other than
the agenda items.
Yes. Nick Rowe. I tried to listen to the last meeting, and could only understand 1 out of every 10 words. Do you know if that's been resolved?
I don't, we did have a little, yes,
Yeah.
it should have been okay for most of the meeting, so.
So, one of the items of new business on the last meeting was a fire permit for a hill. And that would be for me, and I just didn't know if there was anything I need to take care of with you for that. I couldn't understand it, it was a family emergency, so I couldn't be there that night. So I tried to listen to it later, but wasn't able to understand a word of it.
Driveway permits are done through the highway.
Correct, but it was on their agenda as new business last week, but I couldn't understand it.
It's just because the planning board receives notice when when it's approved. It's not anything that we do. It just goes in your file, that's all.
Thank you.
That's usually separate. Anything else? Public comments other than what's on the agenda?
So I don't know if this is on the, I mean, it's willing to vary. But,
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
okay.
Yeah, perfect. That it? All right, and new business. You're gonna bring new business.
No. So,
All right, and let's talk about the berry orchard. As on this. So we did get some information from, let's see. Where did I have notes from our chair.
where's somebody's from here? There it is. All right, so you want to provide some updates. I guess I should maybe go through his updates. Just what
Get
you
it
said
started?
about this one, right?
Yeah. So. Okay, I'll tell you. I think basically the complaint is a selectman issue. And the state forester has to be brought in. The improper erosion control is a state DES matter. If they have cleared and stumped more than 100,000 square feet, 100 by 250, as Jamie seems to imply, then it will also need an alteration of terrain permit from DES now after the fact. Not sure who would be responsible for that official complaint, but since DES will be visiting the site for the erosion control and the forester for the basal area, AOT will be notified. Okay. They all work as a team at DES and notify each department when concerns are discovered. Okay, so that's his update for the barrier to, that's from the chair. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, change funds, there's some funds road, and I did submit a letter to, your board as well as the select board and the conservation commission this week, and, I guess just a matter of, just make sure that this is entered into the record. First, that's the first question. Then to read this to you guys now, or can it be entered by giving you a copy?
Well, we don't have a copy of it.
Yeah, so but because it went to remember, it becomes part of the public record and it will go in their file.
Okay.
So you're welcome to comment, summarize what you have, but, we probably,
So, I think that's the most important thing. This is, this is sort of a notification, hey, to make sure that's formally, received. My only other comment would be, since I wrote this letter, there's been now a clearing that's occurred on the northern part, near the, forest.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you keep informed because things are moving quickly. There's a harvester doing a lot of, cutting currently, and there's 2 other ones that arrived today. So now we have 3 harvesters. And what I've observed on the northern part, if you haven't visited there, is there's been a clearing to about half a mile north of the landing area. And so this isn't a landing area, this is a timber harvest. It's happening along the road. And so there's a 250 foot buffer zone that's supposed to be left along the road. And this is clearly violating. I'm a layperson, I can say that with confidence, say they have taken more than 50% of the trees on that road. So the question is procedural. How do we stop this? How do we enforce the regulations? And does the planning board have any role to play at all in this? And I guess I would start by pausing and saying, has the board been witness to the violation? Are you in agreement that there is a violation? And just pause there for a second.
Yeah, so first off, if you don't know, I live on North Road.
Okay.
I live at the last house on North Road before it turns into Old Temple Road.
Okay.
So I drive by there all the time,
Okay, great.
and I was very surprised to see that as well. As far as planning board, I believe we've taken every step we can. We've submitted everything to the appropriate parties. We submit everything that you sent, right? We've copied the select board and
And for our zoning ordinance, enforcement is delegated to the select board, so it's in their court at this point.
Right.
So I don't know, Ken, if you have any updates.
All I can say is it went to legal. Legal says we have no obligation, and someone came back with measurements.
We had no obligation.
The board has no obligation. The state forester does. So the state forester has been called. I'm expecting a phone call from him tomorrow, and that's all I can say.
Because that new landing zone is part of it, they put in their permits, they get permitted for that. If the maps have any value to the permit.
if that's even intended to be a landing zone.
Right.
It's not even part of the permit.
It's part of the notification, right? The statutory permit notification, they submitted all that. What they're gonna cut, we're gonna cut after the landing zones are proposed, where the bridges are proposed, things like that, so. So the new one that you're referring to isn't referenced in any of their documents. It's not considered a landing area, it's part of the harvest, part of the harvest, and yes, it's encompassed by the whole parcels, basically.
There's a creek right there too, where those sort of creek stream, whatever you want to
I
call it.
got pictures.
Yeah, I've got,
Yeah, right in there.
yeah, I was there when they were first doing that, seeing it in action as well, so.
Yeah. So maybe the question is, it sounds like you've been advised that there's no role for you to play, there's no, at least no,
Other than to call the state, we have reached out and we're waiting for a call back. That's all I can tell you.
yeah. So one question I would have is, if this seems to be the type of, cutting that is associated with development with the clearing, and it's not permitted by you, that there may be a notification effort to say, hey, select board, it seems that there is a clearing occurring, which is not permitted by us. And that would be a triggering event for you to basically say, hey, this is not permitted, this hasn't been permitted by our board. Because if you had permitted it, this would be a fine clearing, they'd be able to do what they're doing. But you haven't done that. And so you should say, this isn't permitted by us.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever on any other parcel of property told them where they can make a landing, where they can't make a landing.
We're not talking about the landing.
Talking about clearing the land for a conversion to development.
Well, I mean, you can go back and forth to the conversion of development. We don't have the development yet. We don't have any plan for a development. We don't know what they're doing. What they brought forward is irrelevant as to what we're looking at. And we have nothing to go by that says they have to do.
And you have one piece of time, which is the cutting. And that is a violation of not having been permitted to do development, excavation and clearing. And
And
so,
then we put the word into the state forest or in the road.
right, so
I can't tell you anything. I don't know.
So I just suggest one possibility, for the board to take a position that you just to notify the select board officially that this activity is not permitted by our board. And it seems to be consistent. You don't even have to say it's consistent with development work. You can say that this clearing is not permitted by our board because it is cutting and clearing along the roadway. And just bring it to the notice, just to notify them.
We don't permit typically for cutting and clearing unless it's related to an application for a subdivision, which we don't have right now, which is the difficulty that we're in. I hear what you're saying. I don't think it's a bad idea for us to send something to the select board and say we have not approved any plans for development.
That's
We
it.
have not received any applications. That's all we can say. But we don't permit clearing, in general, it's only related to development.
I think that's all I would think would make sense at this stage.
So my name is Boo Martin, and reflecting back, and several of you were on the board when we applied to try to do events at the farm, weddings in particular. And I remember the select board said, if you don't do this, we'll give you a cease and desist. And it struck terror in my heart. I love this town, I love getting along, and I thought, my gosh, that's the law. And it feels like we had, not we, because I saw it on Sunday, I did not realize the extent to which this was happening. And I saw the trees over the creek and this huge thing bigger than this room that could 500 trees in a day. And I was like, I've been asleep at the switch, and I honor the select board and the planning board for trying to do this, but it feels, I did come when the guy from the surveyor came and proposed this all, and feels like you all have reached out to them. Other people to buy the thing have reached out to them, and they're sort of like, excuse my French, but this. And I just think when I saw the entire, isn't there a permit that, a restriction that you can't take down a stone wall? And the entire thing just seems like they're going fully ahead, and all of us, including me, so I honor that you guys have been trying, but that they're just sort of saying, go downtown temple here, and we're just doing what we want to do. And is there a cease and desist order that they're not listening to?
Is that letter?
Well, I feel like in that letter.
That
like,
basically says
said
that.
they were told to stop.
Cease and desist came across my desk. I mean, literally, I was terrified. And I honored it like that. As much as I didn't want to, but that's what the town told me to do, and that's what the law was. And so to have a cease and desist that they're not honoring, and they won't return phone calls. I know there's been a plethora of people that have tried to buy it to buy the property to prevent this happening. And I know that the orchard is very contaminated. It has to be. And so it seems like they're logging on the hardwood forest part, which I guess isn't going to contaminate the soil. But they started already, and in 20 days, that big chipper and 2 more have arrived. They can take the entire orchard down, and there's going to be no recourse. And it feels like, as much as and I'm late to the party, but I'm here to help if there's any way I can help. But it seems like we're sitting here and letting them make the call, and it just feels wrong. And when again I got a cease and desist, and it was from you, Ken, I was like, okay, I'm stopping. But they just are sort of doing the middle finger. So won't answer and whatever. Is there a way to speed up the process? 20 days, that entire orchard can be stripped.
So let me get this straight. There was a DES on a cease and desist letter
In
to.
the letter, it said they needed to stop all operations except for anything to correct what had been identified as a violation.
Putting in sedimentation barriers.
Yeah.
No, it's not, it's the letter itself is not that strongly worded as cease and desist. It clearly states, if work has been performed without proper erosion and sediment controls, you are requested to voluntarily refrain from.
Yeah,
So that's not a cease and desist.
the way I read it was, we would like you to stop a cease and desist,
Right.
and we're gonna come and inspect within 20 days.
So they're
Which-
laughing at us.
Which could, yeah, someone from the other side could look at it and say, I have 20 days to get, to do whatever.
I can do.
Yeah. Is there, I'm just asking this question across the board here, is there, and we talked about food last, we talked about the forestry, is there any other enforcement mechanism? And when I say enforcement, I'm applying police, anything?
Well, the selectmen have the ability to stop work on the intent to cut. They can do that.
Ken can't speak for the entire select board, and he's also reached out to legal, so my advice would be to go to the select board meeting next Tuesday. And
But that is where the authority would come.
That is-
If there's, if our car is gonna pull off beside the shear skidder, and the logger is gonna be handed papers, it's gonna be from some.
So
It's not gonna be from the planning board.
No.
We should be there and support, but we're not, the authority comes from.
The select board can serve the papers. I think that has to be done through an entity like the sheriff's department. We can't do that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the key here, what you're trying to get at is that for the town temple, the enforcement jurisdiction belongs with the select board. Right, so it starts there,
I understand.
Yes.
But again,
and they have gone to legal, and legal has said,
I've asked legal because we had this question come in. We sent all the documents, all the pictures. According to one of the other selectmen, when they were measured, it's not over 100,000 square feet that they've,
so,
that's what he said. I don't know if I haven't measured it myself. I mean, I was over there today and they were loading trucks, so I don't know.
How long ago was the state forester notified?
there's,
When the attention cut was issued.
there's a Jeep with the forester plaque on it, a white plaque, I didn't catch the whole name of it.
That's the logger.
That's the water?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think that if it was,
Yes.
the forester should be, it should be a priority. And we're not like a day, it's like weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if these guys run around and do all this stuff because they can and because nobody's gonna catch them. That's their livelihood. And all that equipment has to be paid for.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure they're trying to do things by the letter of the law according to what they understand and what they can do. But, I mean, look at it from the select board side, we only meet every 2 weeks. So, and sometimes it's every 3 weeks, so sometimes we don't have, like, I sent all the stuff to Lee and got an answer back today and sent it to the board. That's all I can do. I can't call those guys and ask them anything. I can't make any decisions without them. So we have to wait till the meeting. But in the meantime, I'm waiting for the forester to call. Because he actually did call Carol and left a message. So instead of going back to Carol, I had her call him back. We tried to call him back and we got the voicemail. He's going to call me in person. So then I can go back to the board and tell them what I found out.
You talking to the state forester? Do you mean the
Yes, the state.
See, I don't think the struggle is, I don't think the God is cutting it. The state forester, I felt like that staging area was beautifully done in the runoff. I think that the fact that the trees are being cut, that it's the owners that are sort of demanding it. I don't think this is the fault of the poor forester that's trying to pay for his trucks.
Yeah, well,
It's licensed, right? I mean, he could lose his license if he violates.
yes, absolutely.
Would be fine.
Yeah, it would be fun. Especially when they come from the state.
Yeah, okay.
So there might be another angle we can take. I don't drive down that road very much, but the last time I drove down before I worked again, I thought I remember a stone wall along the road. Gone. Well, if that's their boundary, then they've moved the boundary. Stone walls are usually listed following a stone wall in the deed. If they've moved a stone wall that's a boundary, we can, I believe you can stop them now.
Only on a scenic road, and that's not a scenic road.
But if it's a boundary
As
that's
far
in the
as
deed,
I know, it's still,
if the deed mentions a stone
Doesn't
wall
matter.
as a boundary,
they can put stone walls in, they can put rebar in, they can put 100 different.
And they had it surveyed as well.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah, my name is Simon Dennis. I'm representing the monastery's interest in this. I definitely, and I should say that I served on the select board of Hartford, Vermont for 10 years, so I'm very sympathetic to the who represented the position that you're in. I recognize that the select board has a jurisdiction to take this action, but to some extent, the role of the Conservation Commission is very important because the action could be based on permitting and a permitting violation, which is your jurisdiction. So when it comes before the select board, the question is going to be for them, what is the view of the Conservation Commission with regard to whether or not this current cutting is in accordance with A, the permit, and B, the Basel law. So and since the select board only meets every 2 weeks and with 3 harvesters going, a lot can happen in 2 weeks. It would be very, very nice if it were possible for the things to be set up for the select board to take the greatest action that they could in this and not have to wonder what does the Conservation Commission think about whether or not this cutting is covered by the permit that they issue, whether or not this cutting is in violation of the Basel law. So simply expressing that your collective view on those 2 issues to the select board would set things up in a good place for a week from tonight.
So we didn't issue any permits as a planning board, but you're on the Conservation Commission. Do you guys comment on logging typically?
Do we come, well,
Yeah, do you sign off on?
no,
Yeah.
not generally. But I mean, I think, the Basel law, if you just look at the landing zone, the Basel law has pretty much been ignored there. Now, but the question is, was there any tree line there? Other than the orchard? So that's the orchard downs. I understood, but that's no gray zone, right? So
Well, it's not great. It's in some point, people confuse this as taxing. Fruit trees are not, they're not part of the intent to cut. They're not part of the taxable, all wood.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, preserving buffer zones around roads, forest trees or fruit trees are not exempted from that. They can't cut down fruit trees.
so then, this is just a question for me. Thinking in the same line of thought, so to speak, is that the road agent had to approve, putting this, I wish he was or
Yeah.
former, it was here, because I don't like saying stuff. Anyways, my thought was, did the road agent approve this landing as is, and therefore a representative of this town approve that landing?
I went to the initial meeting with the forester and Kent and Josh. And Kent clearly said, don't go that way with your landing site, go that way. Like pointing to the orchard, don't go there, go that way. And they basically ignored that. And they went into the orchard. And then I went down to the southern landing site with them. And it's all orchard there. And I suggested that they don't use that spot as a landing zone, that they maybe go up to the class 6 road or figure out another, and they kind of ignored that as well. So I don't know what the second meeting was with Josh and Kent, where they met with the forester, Dan Reed, when they were putting in that landing zone.
Yeah, I would assume that
But the initial conversation was don't go that way, go that way.
this is clearly an assumption on my part, but I would assume that the landing, right, or what do they call it? Was approved,
Yeah, landing
was approved by road agent. I'm making that assumption.
The driveways were approved for in and off the road. And that's all they do. They don't.
Yeah, and
They don't tell them where to put the landing. I mean,
Well,
by rules, they don't tell them where to put the
Well,
landing.
the question would be, what details, did they say, yes, you can do a landing zone that is this wide?
Like I said, they don't do
Very
that.
first 30 feet.
30 feet, that's it. So the rest of it they did on their own.
They only put the driveways in to get in on, off the road and back up to the road.
And that part,
And they got,
you are allowed to move temporarily, it's still all for that.
they got 2 driveways.
That needs to be
They did way more than
But
that.
they still need to be replaced when the logging operation is done. It's a temporary curb cut.
They took about 300 feet or more.
Stone wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I walked it the other day, it's 322 feet. The whole landing site.
And actually, it's all the soil, which I probably, I think.
and sorry, I just want to add, they put in a rock, what I would appear, what's the word? Riprap, which creates drainage down to the street.
There's no silt prevention involved.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I went to the time when the surveyor was there. I felt like he was the land slaughter. You guys did a great job. You were respectful, but he was like, well, I don't know. And I thought that there was going to be a lot of testing of the soil to see whether the soil was contaminated. So I'm curious. Again, I've been busy and stuff.
Isn't it when we get to a point of an application? That is something that we will,
So it really has to be approved. yet.
there hasn't been any application at all.
Yeah, so
But what about disturbing the soil? To your point, the entire north side of the orchard is gone.
Yeah.
And doesn't that disturb, and I see George Russell's here, doesn't that just leach down into his land and our land and?
give a little background. We have a couple of meetings on this, and one of the things we did do early on was send a letter out requesting that they test the soil before they disturb it.
Did they do it?
But
No, it's permitted to do.
the challenge we have as a planning board is they came to us with a preliminary application, just give us a little insight of what they plan to do in the future. There's no whole. It's
The non-binding, it's
Non-binding.
consultation, non-binding.
I was there.
Yeah,
And
so
I thought, from what I understood, it was the letter of the law, except where it was gonna be. That they had really looked at the zoning and really looked at driveways and blah, blah, blah. But it was gonna be on top of an orchard with probably highly contaminated stuff. And is there some mechanism with either select or planning board? And I know I'm late to the party, so
I can answer a little bit of that, I think, if you don't mind. Citizens can register complaints with the DES if there's a water related issue, or with the Department of Forest and Lands if there's a timber harvester related issue. And so I just recently submitted one to the Department of Forest and Lands because of this cutting near the road. And I was contacted this morning by Dave Elliott, who's the ranger that you may be looking to talk to as well. I don't know. He would have come out today, but for family issues. And so he tried to contact a colleague of his to get out here. I don't know if he made it out here today, but it sounded like he would come out imminently, whoever he was contacting. And I mentioned to him, what's the typical escalation path for this? Because we're looking to meet the planning board, and ultimately our select board will probably contact your director and notify you of the issue. And in terms of authority, the town, it's basically just the municipality has the authority to enforce those timber laws. But first they have to give 10 days to the Department of Forestry to try to, deal with the violations. So, but if they're inactive or they don't address them, then the town has full authority to enforce on those violations. But anyway, so whether or not this gets escalated through the select board doesn't prevent the forester, or sorry, the ranger from coming and putting a cease and desist on the spot, because they have that authority to do that. So if he comes tomorrow and he looks at that basal area cut and says, this is a violation, he has the technical or the authority to actually put a cease and desist on it on site. So he has that. He doesn't have to call the sheriff or anything. He has that authority to do that. So that is a hopeful potential path. It's something that imminent. But nonetheless, the escalation through the select board, because they are the interface with the Department of Forestry that we need, they should start that 10-day clock as soon as possible. It would be great if we'd have to wait a week, if they could have an emergency meeting, or they could somehow say, yes, visit the site. This is, we think this is a violation. This is urgent. We have trees being cut down at a very quick rate along the road.
With sounds like 2 new machines.
Yes, so there'll be at 300% capacity starting tomorrow. Yeah. So anyway, it feels urgent, and there is another piece to it, which is the health piece and the soil piece. And so that is a DES issue, but nonetheless, that all that gear, all that forestry going on that contaminated soil is potentially causing more erosion and maybe a bigger health hazard. And God forbid we end up with a Superfund site in Temple because of this neglect, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
I don't know, George wanted to talk as well. He's in a letter.
Hey, George.
Hi, respectfully, is it okay for me to talk? I know you're not supposed to talk if you attend via Zoom, but I had some personal matters come up and I was unable to get up there this evening.
Any objection to the board?
No objection.
Please, go ahead.
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I couldn't understand you.
Please, go ahead.
So just a little bit of background. We really have to understand where this all is coming from. And people keep touching on the heirs and what their interests are and things like that. But we really have to understand that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And we may be looking back on these meetings a year or two from now and wondering why we didn't act more firmly and take more of an initiative in understanding what's going to happen to this land. People have said that this is going to be a change in lifestyle. This event of the Barry property passing into hands where they readily have said to many people they're only interested in maximizing their return on their inheritance. I don't think the bad guys are the foresters or the loggers. I mean, these are people we know. These are people that, behave in a way that they want to continue to work in this community in the future. I think what we're dealing with is, folks that have, had a life-changing event of wealth, and they're looking at how do they get the most bucks out of this. And I think what the select board, if I may, and also the planning board's interest should be is what can we do to understand this and move towards something that also protects the interests of Temple. And that's not going to be from reading the book. I mean, this is a very unusual situation. How often does 200 to 300 acres of land come up where, the folks are saying, and outside money is funding, let's develop it. I mean, we really have to take a step back and say, yeah, there's the short-term issue here, but, this is not about 15 lots. This is about someone having their calculator out and saying there's, 200 to 300 acres here. And at 3 acres a lot, and obviously there's a lot of things that restrict them, like road frontage and things like that. But, this may fall into the hands of a developer that has far less interest than the current people we're dealing with right now. So the people we're dealing with right now, setting up a staging area for a 250 acre development, even though, the application that they put in was for foresting. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's what's coming down the road that we have to be paying attention to. And the last point I'll make is, we got together as abutters. I'm an abutter, a significant abutter, as is Jamie, as our friends, the monks and others. And we said, well, why don't we, work together and see what we can do to approach the heirs and offer to purchase the land from them. And I don't want to go into too much detail about conversations that, extend back 10, 12, 15 months now. But we basically approached them with, friends of theirs, and we're talking about the heirs now, friends of theirs, and said, listen, would you consider a sale and putting this into conservation? We had significant numbers of third parties, meaning non-abutters, who are really interested in, they might have been down the road a quarter of a mile or half a mile away, or even from other towns, saying, I would love to put money into this to make sure that our area, not just our, road frontage, but our area, remains rural and agricultural. They didn't even return our calls. So let's look at what we're dealing with here and thinking about the long term, not just this first step of the staging area. And anybody can get away with putting together a staging area that the trucks are not going to obey a 35 or is it 30, setback along the road. Let's not spend our powder on this. Let's develop a plan, and let's not follow the book. Let's develop a plan for what's coming. And it's not the foresting. We know that. When they've turned down multiple 7-figure offers already for the land, they're not looking to bring apple farming back to Temple. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you.
So George, to echo that, I had an independent friend that I was working with, and she too offered market price, and they did not return her call.
Okay. So I think, from my comments for the planning board would be, is there anything else we can do to move this along? I would, part of what's going through my head, to be honest, is there anything, if we're doing everything we can, and that's, I think, the question on the table here. Is there anything the citizens can do more? One of the things comes to mind is there an abutter that's willing to test the water? To look at that, see if any contamination is heading in their direction or on their property now.
Yes. To answer that question briefly, I have land that's between Putnam and North Road along Webster that goes up to just below the Barry homestead. and the mountain, that runs up and down to the Conleys, is a significant, almost 45-degree slope. And the town recently, and by that I mean in the last 5-10 years, installed 5 culverts that directs the runoff from the orchard onto my property. And so I have tested the soils, and I'm not willing to disclose, because of obvious reasons, what the results of those tests are from each of the culverts that empty onto my property. And I strongly advise that if development begins on the property above us, that the town is from a libel standpoint totally involved in this, in that they're running culverts under a town road, directing contaminated, arsenic laden runoff as this development expands in the coming months and perhaps years onto my property. Doesn't stay on my property long. It runs onto Randy's property. And then it runs down into a Class A water supply into Wilton. So there is very much risk here of runoff. There's very much risk here of, not just to our lifestyle, but rather to the health of the people far below this property.
George, did you do the tests before they started logging?
Those tests were conducted before, and they'll be conducted after. Keep in mind, the area that under the logging activity right now is on the northern side of North Road, and I have property that runs north to south from where they are working down to Webster. So it hasn't reached my property line yet, but should it, I went ahead and I have an A to compare to a B.
Great.
So as a public facility, I have to test my water every 3 months. And I have certain things I have to test for. And the runoff does run directly to us. You're a little higher, George, but a lot of it runs down to where we are. And I'd be more than happy to expand. I need to pay for a water test anyway. And I have one coming up again in June. So I would think that they could do, we're testing for simple things like, what is it, E. coli?
Coliform, E. coli, nitrates, nitrites.
Yeah, I could expand that if you want. I'm doing it anyway. And if I'd be happy to do that as the citizen part of this. And I have one happening in June.
Your samples are part of public record because it's a public water supply booth, and I've seen them, and your arsenic level was 5 times the legal limit of drinking water out of your well. So that's a baseline to start with already before they did any timber harvesting. So I would certainly encourage you to
I will.
do an arsenic test at least, maybe a speciation of arsenic.
Wait.
Arsenic.
No, I got that. But
Oh.
the speciation.
There are 2 types of arsenic, and so you can
I don't even know how to spell that.
Yeah.
Speciation.
and it can indicate where the arsenic is derived from, especially.
Well, I'm game.
Yeah, and the other thing is lead, because lead arsenate is what was used in the pesticides, and lead doesn't travel as readily over soil during erosion, but when it is captured close to the source, it's usually a 4-to-1 ratio. So it can prove that this is contaminant from lead arsenate when you have that kind of ratio.
I will send it to you and your conservation. I'll send it to you and I'll send it to you. We have to do it in the select board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so if we,
At least something I can do.
so if we summarize, is there first, is
Well,
there
I think we
anything?
go back to that letter we
Sure.
talked about earlier, just expressing our concerns. and
Yes,
that we
yeah,
have
so
not
I,
received-
that's what I was gonna get, so we can send a letter to the select
not
board.
approved any development clearings,
Do you have that letter, copy of that letter, Chip, you could read?
that first letter.
Mhm.
Which
I'm trying to think which one.
Which one? You want the,
One from us.
One rough draft when we sent and got no response.
is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah.
Bruce, you talking about the DES? The most recent from the
DES.
DES, reported alleged violation.
It's
Stated May 18th.
It's on tonight's, yeah,
Yeah, it's part of the agenda,
Yeah, part of the agenda.
the document.
I just have a question in regards to, the current counts for the plantings. So we'll be wasting our time spending Josh and Ken there tomorrow to look at what.
I am not going to say anything more as a single select board member. I have to go with what our legal tells us. I have to stay out of this until they tell me I can say something.
Okay. So I don't think that's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
it's not gonna hurt you. The only thing that we can do at this point is draft a letter to send to the select board that states the facts that we received a conceptual subdivision plan, and there's no formal application in front of us at this time. Those are the only facts that we have. It's a select board matter. And it's the estimate, it's not.
Yeah, require a permit and they need the road agents to sign off on that.
Still doesn't.
Planning board is.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's not what it does.
But I put it over to the select board. Exactly.
In my opinion, what I would do is try to put the different divisions in the same room at the same time, and talk about what we do other than a strongly worded reprimand or request. That's not gonna work. But unless we get this board and this board together at the same time and talk about strategy, you know, there's a few things that, you know, they've moved a rock wall, which is they down 300 feet of it. They have not done properly their, what's it called, the bales up to keep the silt movement.
Soil test.
So that's gonna be very, those things are required. You know, moving a rock wall, where I come from, that was a big deal, moving a boundary. If you move something that would be listed in the deed, this rock wall is the boundary. And you can't do that and not taking care of, you know, the water runoff and treating that properly. Well, those are violations, which at least if we can put a cease and desist because of current violations, it buys us time to work more like what was more like what George is saying. We gotta think more on the long game, how to win the game rather than just this one battle. But if we can just delay it by putting up roadblocks right now so that we have time to be more cohesive as a town. Listen, over where I grew up, there was Epping. They had something called Blueberry Hill. It was a disaster, and that town watched it happen. And one board said we can't do it, people said this, and another board. That thing turned into a nightmare while this kind of stuff went on, where everybody thought it was something they could do. There is something we can do, we just gotta get together and figure it out. And I would put legal in the same room at the same time. This is something we can't just sit around, because in a week, that place could look like a desert.
Let's rise to a situation where we can arrange a meeting with planning board. I don't know if planning board has jurisdiction there, but select board, whoever, with legal, and come up with a strategy or.
Yeah, I think it
really-
includes conservation.
Yeah,
commission as well.
well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I would do that.
We can,
And again, it's just odd because I want to say something and I really can't. But
I
the lawyer is our lawyer.
know, that's what I'm getting at.
And I don't know if conservation has their own lawyer, so their lawyer is our lawyer. And I'm just doing what my legal is telling me I can and can't do.
I guess I'm wondering whether there's.
In terms of
something
big
to-
picture planning, I think it's beneficial.
And potentially something to move faster.
Yes.
I don't know.
So in the interest of just adding some information to this to maybe shine a light on this, I have spoken to council, and just based on the current activity that's in place, they're in violation. And so gaining an injunction or a cease and desist would be easy. What, as we were saying, is important is a longer game, but if we want to actually, put a halt on this while the town organizes itself in determining and acting upon what's the best interest of the town, I think it's a certainty that we could get the current activity to stop.
I think the challenge is who can get the activity to stop? Can a citizen do it? Does it have to be the select board? Is there any other option besides waiting until the select board meets? And I'm not trying to put this on the select board from a timing. I'm just saying that, is there another option? There may be tomorrow, right? If that person comes out and can take an action that could do something for us.
There are two routes, and so the citizenry route is one, the ranger actually said, typically, we don't get this handed to us top down. This comes from citizens usually, and we can act. If there's a violation, we can act on it immediately. It doesn't have to wait for boards to do this. But that doesn't mean that we can't do that in parallel in case we need to. And it's really, what happens is you set a 10-day timer, the select board does, by notifying the director. We think there's a violation, it needs inspection now. And once you notify them, the timer starts. They've got to come out and they've got to respond to that. And if they don't, then you have all the keys to enforce this as you wish.
And isn't it stronger if the citizens and the boards and legal and George, your legal, all band together to do that?
Whether it's together or in parallel is a good question. I don't think you can band together on all these things.
But I think the challenge of the together part is the timing. Because we can't act independently as a planning board individual. Select board can't act independently as a select person, right? It has to be
Well, and
a voted
meeting with
action.
legal can be scheduled
Yes.
outside of a regular meeting, so that can
Exactly.
happen sooner
Yeah.
than later, and that is something that the select board could,
So,
or Carol. could
so from
arrange.
coming back to the planning board,
Yep.
right? Do we draft a letter that we talked about sending to the select board, and in that letter, we encourage,
An
an
emergency.
emergency,
Yeah, right.
emergency meeting with legal?
Mhm.
And could that be done via Zoom?
Yeah,
Yes,
Conservation Commission,
does
planning
that,
board.
does that mean
Legal,
everybody's,
Zoom meeting.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah.
I'd be definitely personally interested in how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's a great idea. I think what we should keep in mind is what the heirs have done to date. The heirs started by presenting to the planning board a development plan. Subsequent to that, they presented a foresting plan. And I think if we could set sort of a target for ourselves, this collective interest of both the town and residents, the vision would be, okay, the land's going to be developed. Let's face it, I don't think there's a whole lot that John Barry left us to work with in terms of stopping the land from being developed. Well, if that's the case, I think our job now is to make sure it's done the right way.
they,
And the right way is in compliance with existing regulations and ordinances and statutes, which they're not demonstrating any activity thus far in anyhow, that they have any interest in doing anything but what they want. And so they are in violation. So let's act now. But that vision is not to come across as saying, no, we don't want development, because that's impossible. This is my opinion. I don't know if it's reality, but it's my opinion. it's going to be developed, but it should be developed in the right way, which would include, not contaminating our neighbors' properties and downstream water use. It's a pretty, it's a pretty strong argument if we work together.
Okay. So do we need a motion to take the action?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Anybody want to make a motion for a letter to the select board summarizing expedience, request and legal?
Collaborative meeting with the Conservation Commission and the Select Board.
Yes.
That's a good motion. I'll second that.
All right.
Okay.
Aye.
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 I'll stay.
So that has it.
Yep.
So
So we should have that out tomorrow.
To Carol. And then one would assume that the select board would get that tomorrow, and I don't know how that works.
Well, Carol would have to send an email out to
All three,
all the select board members.
all three of you,
We all then have to answer Carol. We can't answer each other.
because it's not a public meeting.
Right,
Carol
right.
Good.
Great to know.
To see, and then also Carol would have to reach out to legal and see if they can do it at some point, or they can come to our meeting. I don't know anything other than
Yeah.
how that works.
I think we've requested before the end of this week if possible.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
see. We'll see who's available.
I'm sure there's private citizens that can make sure that the other two selectmen check their emails.
There's no doubt that they do,
Yeah,
but it's just coordinating this whole thing. It's
Yeah.
gonna-
Yeah.
it's-
yeah.
I mean, we,
I know we have to be within the law, and I
I've done
understand
it
that.
several times with council, but it's always been the board and council, no outside entities, no, just the three board members and council. So I don't know how that would work. I think we would have to do it in a public meeting. And I don't know if they would have to come here or if they would want to do it over the Zoom.
Yeah.
I can't say.
So we
It sounds like waiting till a whole week from today would be,
Catastrophic.
yeah, it sounds
Not
like.
wise, not wise.
Yeah.
Need pictures.
I'm not saying that it can happen, but I don't know. I don't have the answer.
If you want to send pictures, just know they'll be part of the public record.
I will, from Sunday.
So, I forgot what I was gonna ask. So can we have a point of contact for this from the board? Someone that's gonna run with this? What's going through my head right now is the
Well, Russ
vice
isn't
chair.
here, so.
What's
you know,
going through my head right now is to get in communication with Russ after the meeting.
Yeah.
Have me to watch the video
Yeah,
and then
So-
advise.
I was gonna recommend that.
yeah,
And then,
yeah, I was gonna, yeah,
Okay.
Russ is probably
all right,
the most appropriate.
all right, that makes sense to me.
Mhm.
All right, is that?
Let's try to do it by the end of the week.
Yeah, I'll get with Russ the best I can tonight. Yes,
I would like to make one more comment.
Sure.
Thank you, each one of you, for taking it seriously. Thank you for work you've done. And this is where push comes to shove. And I think those of us that sit around and let other people run and work through things don't appreciate what you do. So I think this is a real example of trying our best to do right. So thank you.
thank you, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Agreed, yeah.
Yes,
One ambiguity about the letter was the intent to involve also the Conservation Commission.
Absolutely.
Commission,
Yeah.
All three.
Yes.
boards.
yeah, the letter would be, my suggestion would be that's all inclusive.
Mhm.
And trying, yeah,
And maybe,
and legal.
and maybe Ken or the road agent as well.
That's good.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good.
good.
Yeah.
Do we have a health agent?
We do,
Pete Caswell.
We do, but he's limited as to what he does.
yeah.
Anything health related?
And he does, he does water and septic.
Water's right up there.
He's the health officer though, right?
Yes.
He's the health officer, yes.
I think that would be a good, invite.
He's super busy.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can invite him.
Yeah.
So road agent and health officer as well.
Okay. Does that work?
Yeah, thank you.
And go to the next select board meeting.
Very good.
Will you provide us with an update on this Dave Elliott situation?
Yes, happy to. I'm flying on Thursday, but if it happens tomorrow, I'll be able to get to you. Otherwise, for other people, other neighbors watching the situation.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Right. Back to the agenda. Tax map updates. Russ sent over. Yeah, on the tax map updates, he says, the four maps are updated. Subdivision law adjustments, he's thinking we need to some more eyes on it. Has anybody had a chance to look at it?
I did not.
I did not do a comparison.
I looked at it, but I didn't do it first either.
Yeah,
So the invoice for $1,550,
which is over the budget, right?
Mhm.
and our budget amount is 10,000, so we're $550 over.
But he said, when I saw you, said, I'll see you. Go on, look at CIA about the fee structure and explain. Why we were interested. I was wondering whether, when I first started to read that, I was wondering if you. Okay. Help us keep up in that gap. Should we?
I think he asked the question because we were talking about, he was talking about charging applicants.
That's chief set issues.
Right.
I was expecting the second part of the sentence to say,
Mhm.
I reached out to them and say, hey, can you help us stay within the budget going forward?
Right.
Um,
It's helpful in both cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Did we talk about increasing that budget on the basis?
We haven't, we talk about the budget typically in the fall,
Yeah.
so that would be good information to have.
Yeah, so it's an anomaly, or what are $550 over June 1st?
This is to pay for last year's updates.
Okay, so, all right, so last year was a busy year.
Yeah. And there were corrections, which they are paying for, I think.
So far this year, we're not on track for that to happen.
No.
So it could have been an anomaly last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see what we have by September and if we have any applications we're expecting.
We can change our budget.
Yep.
September, and I believe you guys are already scheduled for that, so find out from your BAC rep.
That would be my wife, I believe.
Yeah. Remember who exactly took up what.
That's great. Well, isn't Russ on that? No, he goes to the CIP.
CIP.
Yeah.
So is there any other action? Taken?
Yeah. And if we don't, typically, if we don't respond to them by a certain time, we assume that they're correct. So we should definitely do that. Then they get angry with us for.
Do you think, the suggestion that we all try and take a look at those
Yep.
updates before the next meeting, is that enough
Yep.
time?
I looked at them, I think they're okay.
Okay, so that's another, at least
Yeah.
another set of eyes, good. Very good. Anything else on that? And then we have working sessions. We're gonna. It's 8:05. Do we want to take on any of these working session items?
Well, there's not a lot in either of them really
Mhm.
to look at, so
Okay,
I don't,
I printed out what you did in the floodplain, Christine.
yeah. It was more or less just putting a town of Temple, and then there was a couple of questions I had on the maps. I wasn't sure if when you met with New Hampshire OPD if they recommended maps to use, so I left those. Not filled in. Did they want us to use the maps that aren't finalized yet, or what did they recommend when you met with them, or do you not remember? Because I can ask them. That's on page 1 in the establishment section.
So that would be the insert date of FIS and
Yeah.
or date of the firm. Yeah.
Yeah, so the firm, those are the maps.
Those are acronyms for
Yeah, it's somewhere else in here, I think. Firm is flood insurance rate map. And FIS is flood insurance study, and that's the definitions on page 6.
got it.
So I can ask for OPD what maps they recommended, if you guys don't remember, or if they didn't recommend anything.
You're saying when we met with
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah, their name is Jennifer. It's not Jennifer anymore, it's somebody else, Stephanie.
That could have been out. Right.
I wasn't at.
Okay.
I don't remember. If I was
Yeah, I think you're right.
But this is just their part B or model B ordinance, and it says they had it written, except town of Temple has been put in. And
Okay.
then Russ had that one recommendation on page 8 under special flood hazard area to just include their definition, the full definition, even though we don't have all those other zones in our maps. We only have zone A. So
And he didn't like the fact that you start that. He wanted to keep that.
he wanted to keep it because
Yeah.
that's their official definition, which maybe someday hopefully we won't ever have those zones in town, but that is their definition, so.
Building the ark.
Yeah, right. And then the only other question I had was on page 9, they had these additional sections examples and whether or not we wanted to include those.
So what,
They seem pretty,
I'm looking at page 9, where?
page 9,
At the bottom.
there's section 12, 13, and 14.
Those are the examples.
Those are not required, but so they're optional sections. Do we want to include those or not?
Enforcement section.
I feel like the enforcement for sure, but. And it makes sense to include the other two, but. I'll defer to the board.
Sense to me.
So it's gonna be the duty of the selectmen
Yeah,
or their designated to
Yeah.
enforce.
which it says in our zoning ordinance already.
Okay.
So the only question then is on the dates of the maps they want us to use.
Is this, do we think this is completely enough to a motion to accept it as written, but the exception of the dates or come back?
I can come back with some dates and with another version, and then the next step would be to send it. Oh, there's Bunny.
Oh, yeah. There's so many of them this year.
I know,
And they're big.
they are big.
Yeah.
That's what my wife was saying about.
Sorry,
it,
it's
but-
like squirrels.
Yes, what my wife was saying about the orchard too, is that all the bunnies come out of that orchard there and that they're.
Oh, I see them over there all the time.
They're gonna lose their home. They're all small too.
Yeah, little.
Well, I mean, and it's like the dandelions have never been more vibrant and bright, and so many of them, it's been several years, so I think the answer is you have a really cold winter. Worse than ever in a lot of years, and like, I don't know, it's a weird thing.
Right.
So anyway, the next
Yeah.
step, so I
So we'll
can
come
get
back
some
next week,
dates
the
from
next meeting?
OPD and then it would go to legal for review.
Okay,
Sorry, I can't stop looking at it now.
Well, it's really cool when they're sitting there staring at.
Oh, they know.
I love
One in the yard that just doesn't even run when we come out anymore.
Oh, the frame's going up.
Yes, I
Nice.
noticed that. All right,
What's in the bunny?
Did you end the meeting?
No,
Not yet.
and I misplaced the agenda.
oh,
What's next?
next was the rules of procedure.
Yeah, anybody got anything on that?
Let's see, where's that?
So the first thing was just under the authority to just add the reference to the RSA.
Got it.
And that is also referenced under the rules of procedure on the header, so it probably doesn't need to be in both places, so I can take it out of the header, or I can just move it. I noticed that after I put it in.
So it's nice that it references the RSA.
It is. That number 2 is just how they have it in the recommended ones, but I think it means the same thing in either place.
I don't think it can hurt,
Okay.
but I am questioning, so I'm trying to remember, why did we propose to strike paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 for the duties and responsibilities?
Oh, because they're stated in other places in the rules of procedure. So the first one is stated in our zoning ordinance, and it actually doesn't include everything that we're responsible for, so it just seemed like it was duplicative. Then under the number 2, the rules of procedure reviewed periodically and revised, that's in the end under amendment. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then number 3 is the budget, and that's under the duties of the chair.
So we just are eliminating the
Right.
type of the duties and responsibilities.
Just that section because it's included in other places. Or we can take it out of the other places and put it there. It just is, again, duplicating.
Mhm. And what was the state, what was the state of?
Yep. The state does not have that section.
State. Dot. Okay.
Put it back in.
No, it may be fine, I just questioned it, because we're limiting all sections. Sounds like if it's in other places, then
Well, I'm gonna leave it in the draft anyway for now.
Yeah.
So it won't go anywhere.
Okay.
Under meetings, we just added the language about not meeting in July and August twice. We only meet once. And I put in third Tuesdays. That's typically when we meet. So the 4th. Number 2 refers to meetings, not hearings. We have a whole other section for hearings. Let's see. This under meetings, letter C, that's in response to the new RSA that passed recently.
no, the zoning board member.
Yep. And then we got adding a section for applications for subdivision and site plan review, and I think you might not have been that, we talked about this first, maybe that's why you don't remember, but they had a whole lot of other stuff, which is duplicated in our other regulations, which we were trying to stay away from. So this just refers to them, to the other regulations, and then because we wanted to include that chart, I just referenced the chart.
Appendix F.
Yep. And I couldn't, I don't have the software to recreate it and put Town of Temple at the top. So that's why I just kept it as the OPD's version.
Okay,
Then down to hearings was the next one, that's on page 5.
Strike some things under minutes too.
I
correct?
did. Oh, yes, sorry. Under minutes, it's the minutes of all planning board decisions shall be posted at the town municipal building within 72 hours. We're not doing that and it's not required. And then I struck the unless unanimous for the votes recorded by roll call, because we always do roll call. And then under notice also, I missed that, we switched from verified to certified. That's what's in our applications. And then down to the public hearing, and this just was cleaning it up a bit and bringing it closer to what is recommended in the OPD document. And then Russ had that one change to make waivers its own line, because that has to be approved before you can consider the application as complete. So there's a lot in here. I'm going to go line by line, but this isn't going to be the final version. So if you have other questions. This was the most significant changes, so.
Any questions?
And that's the reason why we have all these new changes under decisions is because the laws changed.
Yes, the findings of fact is new since our last version, for sure. Some of the dates have changed, like the 65 days subject to an extension that had changed. We didn't have a decision section before, it was not included.
And so it's actually good moving forward for our board and future boards to, if they actually look at the rules of procedure.
Right, well, and that was part of it too, like, I think, like at hearings, I was always handing you another document.
I'm like, well, wait a minute, you're gonna send out some decision.
Right.
Right,
so now it's all,
where is that writing? How do you know this? And I don't.
because it's all here.
Because now, yeah, we didn't have it, so now we do.
Yeah.
I wonder who or why they settled on 65 days. Is there a reason? I mean,
I don't know.
that just seems like an odd.
I think it used to be 90.
Was it?
Yeah, and they shortened it. Yeah.
Well, all right.
And then the same with the reconsideration appeal, that's all new, and we didn't have that before.
Okay.
Let's see this. Yeah, and that was it.
Yes.
So nobody had any other,
No, I don't.
that was all Russ had too, so.
So we know what's the rules and procedures?
Yeah, well, before we move on, like, so there's no changes to this.
Yeah.
And you want to think more about that other section, the duties and responsibilities, or? We haven't voted on anything. So
Yeah, I mean, that's.
we'll wait until you have a full board to vote on it.
Okay. Update master plan.
Russ didn't say anything about if you talk to SWRPC, right? Oh, he has the lot line application too.
A lot of land, yeah.
My only thing was like, I thought it looked really good and I thought we should do this for the other ones too.
Okay.
Did you master plan?
Yep. Do we want
I didn't accomplish anything as far as the historic and the things I read through. I did realize that I was misinformed. The actual note referring to the moving of the Little Red schoolhouse number 6 is in our current master plan. It happened simultaneously as we wrote the new master plan. So there's a lot in the history that actually is there that I didn't think was. So that chapter is doesn't need as much cleaning up as I thought it did. But definitely some of the other ones, you know, like
The community facilities one for sure.
yeah, police department, you know, still making double in Greenville, you know, there's, you know,
Right,
but the fire department edition just made it. It was new at the time. The library edition was new at the time.
right,
But so this building wasn't though.
right. So this need, yeah. And so I just took some text from the document that they created a couple of years ago about the restoration of this building and cut and paste it into the master plan for that section. So, but it seemed to me like other people will know more about other departments, so I didn't know if anybody wanted to volunteer to take other sections like fire department perhaps and police, and maybe just reach out to like the rec committee and, you know, and ask them about their section. And it was another one I thought, oh, the library, reach out to the library and ask them to write their section or update it.
So
I can't remember all, I don't think I brought all the different chapter lists with me, but
I did.
did you bring the community facilities one?
I brought this.
Oh, yeah, not that, but like in the community facilities, there's different sections.
Okay.
So we should probably reach out to people that know more about each section, and some of it will be people in this room and some of it probably won't, so.
I think there's a committee that has been working for the last year on all of the buildings, so they might already have that done,
Awesome,
right?
Who was that person? Who was that? Who were those people?
I was just-
Yeah.
okay, sounds like
Yeah.
it's just been delegated to you, Matt.
Yeah, we have a pretty good handle on. So they were supposed to meet, they're meeting again on the 7th. They were supposed to meet last night, but we couldn't do it, so.
And I'm on that committee too.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sounds like
Yeah.
you're volunteering.
What do you think, based on the information that we gathered from the different things? I mean, would that be useful?
I mean, we decided that we think that an addition is needed, right? We haven't done all
For the library?
Library.
the library and municipal building. For
Fire.
municipal and fire
Mm-hmm.
and for library / possibly museum historical.
Who chairs that committee?
Steve Anderson, yeah.
Steve Anderson is now.
Okay.
Yep.
So maybe one of you could
Yeah.
get it on your next agenda.
Well, we meet next Monday.
Right. I won't be there.
You're not gonna be there.
Golf.
Golf
For my birthday, so I'm out all summer.
And then, right,
Greg
and
plays
then
an Amherst.
in the historical society, we're meeting with the library people on Tuesday.
To discuss maybe doing something.
Yes,
It sounds like you guys have that chapter well in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really preliminary. We haven't, there's no plans or there's no but
I don't
But
think
there's no
that's
plans,
really
no
good.
budgets.
yeah, we think there's something needs to be done. We don't need what, right? We don't know what.
Well, then
I know what's different because Amy's a stickler for stick to the process, stick
Yeah.
to the process.
Absolutely, but I think
So,
it's okay to say that if needs have been identified, which will be addressed in the coming years. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
have to say,
We're probably a year or 2 years away from.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's part of planning, right? It's
We're
part
not
of,
gonna get through
We need to do something. We just don't know what yet.
and that,
Where the money's gonna come from, that's right.
that's all it has to say in the master plan.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to say anything definitive other than you've identified needs, and
We can do that for sure.
if this committee is
Yeah.
exploring options.
all right. Anything,
What you said.
Yeah. I'm sure Amy can word it nicely too.
anything else on the master plan?
Well, on the construction materials, I did look at that chapter and it actually is not about existing sites in town. It's about land and materials that we could tap into if we need
Resources.
resources.
That's right.
So I think initially we thought we didn't really need that, but and maybe we still, I don't think it's significant changes, but maybe the map could be updated.
We have the master plan electronically.
Yes, it's on the town website.
Okay.
If you go to the planning board page, on the left side, there's a
Yeah.
thing you click on that says master plan.
Yeah, that's all there.
And it's-
PDF.
Yeah, they're all PDFs and it's by chapter.
We don't have any Dropbox.
I did put I put the old version in the Dropbox.
Yeah.
And then the updated chapters that we just did are under the HOP grant. But I'm gonna create a new folder in the
Yeah.
Dropbox for all the new stuff.
Okay.
And we can manage it that way.
Access that way.
Yeah, so it's all in one place. But I put the USB that Randy gave me is all up there. All the old stuff is up there. You'll see it says 29, I think this 2019
Okay.
master plan.
Okay. Anything else on master plan?
Nope.
As far as other business, any legislative updates, webinars, training listed.
We're not gonna do anything with a lot of land adjustment application, right? We'll save that for the next meeting.
Yeah,
Russ had drawn up a draft, we'll wait, let Russ.
Sounds good to me.
It's not version of it.
I did have one other thing. I was looking at our list of stable business. And the list of things we had talked about updating or looking at. And I noticed that wasn't on there was the large scale development that we pulled out that whole section from the site plan, right? That we will have a lot of issues with. We were gonna revisit that. I think it'd be a good idea to do that. I don't know if you all were aware, there were 4 different bills that were talking about data centers that didn't go anywhere, but then there was that one in Nottingham that's been in the press quite a bit. It'd be a good idea to look at that chapter sooner than later, and
So we had that large scale development,
we pulled it because our attorney said this is not legal, this is not, gonna have a whole bunch of issues with
and
it.
the only reason we had it was really was a 11th organic because of the pipeline.
Right,
The looping pipeline.
or wind, was it from the wind stuff too?
Was it?
Somebody was part of it, but it's not.
Yeah,
I think the wind was part of it too.
I think it was
Yeah.
too, because I think it was older. And then maybe it was looked at again because of the pipeline.
Doesn't really have any land that would be conducive to a.
You only need, well, so I reached out to,
No, I'm thinking
for
for.
a data center.
Data center.
So I reached out to Sarah Bollinger, who was our consultant for the HOP grant, and asked her if other towns were looking at this and, you know, if there was anything, because there's no state definition for data center, which makes it really hard for towns to do any regulations around it. Basically what she said is it could be done in Temple. They would need the Nottingham proposal was for a 4-acre building. And they only went for preliminary consultation, and the applicant ended up pulling it because of so much pushback. In Temple, before they could ask for the special exception, they would need 32 acres and public road access the way our current ordinance is drafted. So another thing to consider is the nature of the use without naming it. If the nature of the use requires a building with a footprint larger than an acre, is that something Temple residents want? And so, you know, we could look at it that way. We don't have anything that's that big, so probably not something that we would want. And it could be denied, but we don't have anything or zoning that would prevent that. If the nature of the use withdraws more than 57,600 gallons of water a day, New Hampshire DES regulates that. And so most of the active permits are for community water supplies, which we don't have in Temple, but we do have the reservoir, which Greenville.
Yeah,
uses.
so
Why does the data center need so much
It's for cooling.
cooling everything?
cooling,
Yep.
and our water sources that we have coming off our mountains are all class A. You know, that would be.
Yeah, so I think we should look at it.
You think we're getting pushback from Barry's Orchard and from storage units
Mhm.
contaminating water? That would be, you know.
Yeah, you would,
So that's it, they just draw that much water
oh, yeah.
and then have some wastewater right after.
Yeah,
Well, and
that
that
gets-
is, that's where the.
that's the issue, it's dumped in back into your class A stream.
And it's warm water.
Warm water, right?
Yeah.
Well, the manatees.
So that makes the storage units look pretty mild.
I don't think Temple has any walkways that have that kind of volume.
We're lucky enough because we're at the beginning of the tributaries,
Right,
so in that respect, we probably are.
Like Wilton might, you know, that might be a big enough waterway to do something, maybe, but you need a lot of cooling for it.
We're talking about is AI.
Right, well, so Nottingham, I don't know if you've read anything about that site, but they're a small town also, but the site they were looking at was purchased originally to be a water bottling
So
facility.
there's a lot of water.
So there's water underground.
Yeah.
That's.
It's like the Atlantic Mountain sprinkler.
They have all the water there.
Well, the joke's always been that ground sprinkler was out of the Somebody River, but I mean, they do have wells there. They are getting it out of the ground.
Yeah, but not there.
Yeah.
From what I understand. I asked them.
Yeah, yeah.
I get one.
Well, they used to.
You know?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we don't get the water here.
Well, so anyway,
Anyways.
I have that old section that we have with all the comments from the attorney, so I'll send that and we can maybe look at that.
Add it to the.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Motion fair.
Second.
Ready?
All right.
Sorry.
Bye.
I guess that's meeting adjourned. huh?
So, meeting adjourned.
Thank you for sharing.
Uh,